I've jumped back onto this 6-cylinder again because this morning Michelle brought me a great big load of parts in a box, including a new cylinder for here, because this one's pretty old, and although it does work, well, now's the time to change it. So what we're going to do is take it to bits, and we're going to run this through the blaster and clean it up a bit. I put it through the washer, but well, I don't know if it worked enough. It got all the grease and muck off, but we'll take it to bits. I'm not going to take the shaft out of here, because you see on these he had a grease point here, so I'm going to just grease it, and it does work, you know, but it's about time it was greased. So the first thing we're going to do, take off this cover, and then we can access the bolt and the shaft in here, and I'll show you how to set it up properly. I've done it before, but why not do it again, eh? Right, here we go. Now we're going to take the screws out. These will obviously come out because they're only over 40 years old. No. Oh, there's one come out. I'm going to put those safe in a magnetic tray because obviously we haven't got any more like that. No. Oh, there you go. 2 out. So how are we going to get the other ones out? That will stretch the threads with a bit of luck. It works every time. Stretch the threads by pushing them down, and by, well, how can we describe a thread? Oh, sort of like that, you know, one's a nut and one's a bolt, and you'll stretch that gap between the two, and the bolts will come out, nut screws will come out. Works with nuts and bolts and everything. Oh, you would have thought I'd practice this, wouldn't you? I'll take that out. Is the last one going to call me a liar? No. Right, that's those. The gasket has somewhat seen better days. I'm just going to put some sealer on it. I'm not going to even bother with the gasket. I'm not going to buy one, we ain't got one. So now we can see inside here the state of affairs. You know, you can see how rusty it is. So what we're going to do is put this in the vise. I'm going to reorganise the camera and put this in the vise and take these 2 nuts off, and then we're going to take the bolts off here and the bolts off there. How simple is that? So here we are in the vise. Now I've clamped it in like that. With my powerful thighs I'm going to push the cylinder, the pedal at the bottom, and it's quite easy to get to the top, isn't it? 1/2 inch, and there we go. That one comes off quite easy. Sometimes they don't, you know. Sometimes they're absolute pain, they won't come out. I mean, this might have been changed in the past, but seeing we're doing it now, well, we might as well take advantage of the situation and change it, because it's not the easiest thing to access when it's on the vehicle. Ooh, I hate it when they're just too tight to undo with your fingers. There we go. It's coming off. Oh, all the shafts turning. I better get a pair of vice grips up there. There's a pair there, but we need some needle nose ones. Where are the needle nose ones? In fact, if we go like that, we should be able to spin that off quite easy, and I bet we're not being able to spin it off quite easy now. Well, It's stuck right on the... Oh, they're worse than useless. Where's a better pair? Ah, here you go. Some of these vice grips are absolute rubbish. Maul grips, whatever you want to call them. I don't know if it's been bruised over or anything, but it seemed to be quite loose, and now it's all really tight. Got right to the end of the thread and now it's tightened up. Heat. Burnt off all that product. Oh, damn it, oh, it's still turning. That's not having it at all. So, you can see where the vice grips have been slipping. I wonder if I've got a better pair, just hold on. One better pair of vice grips later. Away we go. I don't know why it's seized up right at the end. It was funny that, wasn't it? I don't know why they never put a hole in the end of here. That would have been a little bunging. It would have been so much easier. But of course, it would have cost money. There we go. Now that's going to be heavy. Come out. There we go. Just a little thing about vice grips and things. This is a different type. These are ones we're really familiar with, these things here, maul grips, vice grips, but these are superior because, if you can see, it hasn't got an extra lever here to trap your skin. All you do is they go over centre, so as soon as you push them up, they release. They're actually really good. They're craftsmen made in the States. Anyway, that's that. That's my advert over. Next. Got to get this off. Oh, I'll tell you what we'll take off. This one here, whilst it's rigid in the vise, we'll go and get a spanner for that. I think it's 5/8. Everything on here is inch. 5/8. Let's make sure. Yep. There we go, that's that off. And at the same time, whilst I'm here, I'll try and grab a socket to get that off. That's that. That's going to be too big. I'll let it stick out. ½ inch. There we go. Got a bit of squirty on that because that looks a bit tight. That's that. Some people have changed these actually on the car without taking out the tower. I don't actually know how they do it. Well, I do, it takes them a long time. Now the bottom one, again we'll just back it off a bit, put some squirty on it, push the pedal in and try and find the nut underneath. One of them jobs where a couple of captive nuts on or captive bolts would make life an awful lot easier. Yeah. And that should come off. The bolt underneath is seized into the aluminium. There we go, that's it off. Discard. The bolts can go into the blaster, and that's where we're going to go next. So after an initial sandblast, it's come up quite nice. I'm not going to go anal and take every piece of rust off it. When you do blasting like this, it's technically called white. You're blasting it to white, taking all the rust off. Some people just take the scale off, but I'm not too bothered about that. It's cleaned up quite nice. What we're going to do now is I'll explain, I think I explained to you once before, but say for example that's your bulkhead top, and you can see how water can collect in here because that's at an angle like that, and the only place the water can get out of is that little hole there. It's pathetic. So I'm going to get the plasma and just open that out a bit rough. I don't care because nobody's going to see it. Just open it out a bit so it's got some chance of the water to get out, because it can block up with leaves and all sorts of stuff, and I'll do that both sides. I've done the caps, the cap. I've done the cover and the bolts. I'm just going to put some thread protector on those. But interestingly enough, I like these old locking nuts that they used to put on cars, because you can use them over and over again, because all you have to do, if you can see that inside there there's some cuts. There's a cut this side and a cut this side, and the idea is it sort of jumps, doesn't jump a thread, but it puts pressure on the thread, and if you want to use them again, bang them on the top with a hammer. Can't do that with an eye lock. And these are sometimes in North America called stover bolts or stover nuts, because you can use them in high temperatures, whereas you can't do that with a nylock. Alright, so good thinking. Now, oh, plasma, right, I'll get the plasma out. Once we've got two nice big holes in here, now we dust it off, and we're going to warm it up with a torch and then give it a paint. I'm going to use that Canadian rust paint. I mean, I don't think it paints rust on, but we'll clean it up and we'll take this old shabby spring off here, just absolute rubbish, and then we'll do that. So dust off first, get all the, most of that's come off, right? Take that spring off, and then we'll use some brake cleaner to prep it up, warm it up, and then put some paint on. Then we'll get onto the brake tower. If you ever wonder what sort of paint I always use, I always like to use semi-gloss, like a satin, and this is Tremclad. It's I think it's Rust-Oleum who makes it, but it's like a primer and a paint all in one, and I've been using it for donkey's years, and Rust really does keep at bay. It really does work well. I'm not getting paid from them, but when you're spraying stuff, don't spray it like really close like this. Oh, wait a minute, let's move this across. Don't get really close. Get back here, you know, right back. Don't get any runs and things like that then. Right, going to lift that off the bench, clean up the bench, and we'll have a look at the brake tower. Before we go onto the brake tower, where have I put it? Oh, it's up there. Michelle's got me some box of bits. I much prefer customers now to buy with the bits, because then I have no hassles. We've got manifold gaskets for the straight six, because we're going to take the manifold off to do the valves. He's also made me the template, if you can see that, the template of the top of the wing, so I can cut it out to put the brake tower in. I hope that's going to work. Now, a lot of people criticise me saying, well, not criticise, but they always have a go at me, I don't care. I'm going to put, this is an all-make cylinder. Yeah. We're going to put this original type back in. It's a pity they don't supply the nuts, but I'll put some new nuts and washers on there. But people were saying, why don't you put the one with the reservoir on the top? You know, let's open it up. We're going to open it up somewhere, aren't we? Yeah. Get rid of that. Why don't you put the one like on a Defender, later Defender, with this reservoir? Well, you can't get your hand underneath once you've got the brake tower in to fill it up. But you can with this. That's approximately the same size as a reservoir for the reservoir that went on here, right? But it's off a motorcycle, and the cheapest chips, they're only about 16 bucks. This is a used one, but it does the job just as well. You see? Fill it up. Now we can put that onto a rubber hose, extend that rubber hose, and put it anywhere. We could put it in the back seats if you wanted. So we've got that sussed. I'll throw that away. We don't need that. I'm not taking that back. So, yeah, we've got brake hoses. I expect he's wanting me to do an awful lot of work on this truck. What's in here? Oh, there, you see. Oh, he's got two. So, let's, well, we won't open this up because it's nice. But you can see, the reservoir capacity is almost identical. A lot easier, you know, instead of struggling on. Especially for left-hand drives, okay? You know, right-hand drives, it's not a problem because you can get to them easy, but not on a left. I mean, I wouldn't mind using this system on Defenders and things like that, because topping up the cylinders are a real pain. Like I said, the chip. Oh, that's good. I'll put that back in the box. All make, see? Otherwise known as Britpark now. Oh, he's got me a steel cover for the... That saved me making one of them, so that's good. You know, for the steering box cover. And also a gasket for the exhaust valves. He's also got me a very early type of shuttle valve for the brakes. So I've got to work out what the ports are. But notice it's not a reducing valve. The idea is if a brake pipe breaks, the existing pressure in one side will push over and shut off the ports here, thus making it safe. As if. Let's put that to one side. See what we got in the blue box of China. Maybe I should decontaminate it first. Didn't tell me the price and I don't want to know. I know what the trade prices are, but I'm not caring. So this is the cylinder we're going to fit. But because it's a different one to the original cylinder, like that's why we have to chop the wing out. So that's going to fit onto there nice. Let's get the master cylinder out, or the tower. Look at that bad boy. Oh, wow, eh? Now the advantage of using, this is off a Series 3. The advantage why we're using this is that the original 6-cylinder used to have a remote servo, because they didn't have these mounted servos in the 60s, right? In the 70s they did, and then they did away with the remote servos. The advantage is we've also got the brake switch on here, whereas we don't have to rely on the hydraulic switch that went into the lines for operating your brakes. A big thumbs up. It's also got a switch on here, so if you've got no vacuum. Isn't that cool? But it is pretty rusty, but unlike a TDI, they make them out of thicker stuff. So there's not much to protect on that, and I've noticed here the nuts are missing off here, so don't fit it before fitting the nuts. So we'll run it through the blaster. But there's one thing I've noticed, I want to say to people that I see all the time. Every bloody Defender that comes in or at series, they miss these caps off. Now this is so you can get access to the split pin to take off the servo. Obviously they haven't bothered taking it off. But the thing about that is that people leave these off and it gets awfully drafty because it blows a gale down here, believe it or not, because the air's coming up from your footwell down here, got nowhere to go, so it goes down the hole and down onto your feet, and then people wonder why the feet are cold. Check it out, I bet yours are missing. Right, enough of that carrying on. Let's block that hole up, that pipe. Ooh, look at that. High-low martop. Good. And then we'll clean that up. I'll put some bolts on it first, just in case, I think. No, I'll do it like that. Oh, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take off this pedal rubber because we've got these period pedal rubbers with Land Rover on them, aren't they sweet? And we're just going to bond them on with some urethane. Yeah, so let me get that off, get it through the blaster, and let's see what it looks like.